We're kicking off today with CM Punk, who on Raw shared the heartbreaking news that he suffered a triceps injury in the Men's Royal Rumble match, which will force him to miss WrestleMania 40. This will of course lead to massive changes to the two-night mega show in April, but Punk's injury also caused changes to this week's episode of the Red Brand. Contrary to some speculation, it's been confirmed by Fightful Select that Cody Rhodes was always scheduled to win the Royal Rumble, and Punk's injury did not lead to an audible being called. On Raw, Seth Rollins encouraged Cody to face him at WrestleMania instead of Roman Reigns, and this was directly influenced by Punk's injury. The report notes, "The creative on WWE Raw adjusted from what was planned as of Saturday night at the WWE Royal Rumble. We are told that is directly tied to CM Punk's injury and that the Seth Rollins-Cody segment was added as a result of Punk's injury. Pro wrestling has always had to adapt to unforeseen circumstances, and that's what we saw on Raw, and it remains to be seen which title Rhodes will challenge for at WrestleMania. All we know is that the road to WrestleMania has already made a massive detour, and fans can expect plenty more twists and turns in the weeks to come." Now, Vince McMahon may be gone from WWE, but the lawsuit against him is soldiering on, as the former chairman is facing accusations of abuse and trafficking of Janelle Grant. McMahon is alleged to have committed a lot of shocking actions, but it is unlikely that the WWE mogul will see the inside of a courtroom, according to one lawyer. Speaking on Sportskeeda's Unscripted podcast, lawyer Dmitry Shaknovich provided insight into cases like these, stating that well over 90% of cases settle, which is likely what will happen this time. Shaknovich added that it's possible that Grant's civil case could evolve into a criminal case, but added that it'd be unfair to jump to conclusions at this point in time. WWE and TKO will continue forward without McMahon, and some others could be on their way out as well, though based on statistics, McMahon may never see a courtroom or a jail cell. The alleged activities of McMahon are horrific to say the least, and has had the wrestling world reflecting on WWE's treatment of women over the years. After all, McMahon isn't the only person named in the suit, as John Laurinaitis is right there with him, as is a former UFC heavyweight champion some have identified as Brock Lesnar. While speaking on his Storytime podcast, Dutch Mantel talked about Vince McMahon's allegations and recalled Divas being left in a panic after dealing with the then chairman. He said, "I did hear how Vince was around the Divas. He would have them sometimes in a manic state. They would come out of the room sometimes with him shaking, then they would sit in the corner and not talk to anyone, but you could tell something between them that upset them. You remember the story about Ashley Massaro? She ended up killing herself, correct?" Ashley, a Divas Search winner, alleged before her death that she was sexually assaulted at a US military base during a tour of Kuwait, and that WWE pressured her not to press charges. Massaro would take her own life in 2019, and following this, WWE later claimed that executives were not informed of the alleged assault. Mantel continued his talk about the allegations, saying, "I think that they just turned to the first page of this. There are a lot more stories that'll come out now, especially from social media and podcasts like this one. People will tell stories." For now, McMahon is gone from WWE, and many feel that is for the best, and we'll continue to follow this situation for further updates. Over to AEW Dynamite, which opened with Jon Moxley making his way through the crowd to face Jeff Hardy in the show's opener. Moxley looked like he was making an effort to get through the crowd quicker than usual, while Hardy winced when he posed in the corner during his entrance, selling the impact of previous matches. Then again, this could have been more than selling, and he may actually have pulled something, but nevertheless, neither man held back, with Hardy taking a dive off of the apron. Moxley would hit a suicide dive of his own before the 5-minute mark of the show, but despite the announcers talking about Hardy showing more aggression lately, Mox dominated most of the match. It was an interesting combination, as the two have shared the ring before but never in a singles match, and the unconventional style of both men worked in their favor. This didn't feel like a standard wrestling match, but that was part of the fun, and despite Jeff's best efforts, Moxley got the win in a hard-fought contest. 4 luchadors from CMLL attacked Moxley after Hardy left the ring, and while the BCC was not there to help, a few others from the locker room helped clear the ring. The Undisputed Kingdom accompanied Wardlow to the ring for his match against Komander, and while this wasn't a squash like we've seen from Wardlow before, it was hardly competitive. While Komander was able to hold his own despite a clear difference in size and strength, there was no chance for him once Wardlow got rolling. Mr. Mayhem hit the luchador with a knee as he dropped him from the top rope, and he then transitioned into the setup for a powerbomb, which he has used to win matches. As Wardlow had Komander lifted above him, he was staggering, and it seemed as if his right knee had given in and was in immediate pain after hitting a powerbomb before getting the win. Post-match, Wardlow was still bothered by his knee and was slightly limping while muttering to himself, and this match was essentially filler. On Twitter, Wardlow, or as the announcer called him, Mr. Wardlow, gave an update saying that while a normal man's knee would be ruined, he's no normal man. Wardlow added that he's still coming for the AEW World Championship and that his knee is fine, giving Samoa Joe another challenger to worry about. It's great that Wardlow's knee is okay, but this was a scary situation for the former TNT champion, one that could have derailed plans for the Undisputed Kingdom. In the Women's Royal Rumble match, Tiffany Stratton had quite the showing as the 29th entrant and would eliminate fellow NXT star Roxanne Perez before being dumped over the top rope by Bayley. Stratton lasted less than 7 minutes in the match, but clearly impressed the right people, as PW Insider reports that there has been talk about Tiffany joining the Raw roster. While it's not officially confirmed at this point, there is speculation among some insiders that she could potentially make her main roster debut as soon as the upcoming month. This is certainly an exciting development for Tiffany Stratton, and fans will be eager to see how her career progresses within WWE, as many feel she's done all she can as part of NXT. Stratton is already a former NXT Women's Champion and has already worked with the Gold Brand's top names as well as Becky Lynch, and is a call-up coming very soon? Time will tell. Ahead of the Rumble, a report came out stating that Gunther was scheduled to win the men's match, and while it was later debunked, the prospect had the WWE Universe excited. On the Raw before the Rumble, the Intercontinental Champion came face-to-face with World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins, and the Austrian is confident regarding a potential match. During an appearance on Busted Open Radio, Gunther discussed a possible title-for-title winner-takes-all match with Rollins, and was sure in his ability over the Architect. He said, "I always thought that scenario would be interesting with me and Seth in there. The Intercontinental Champion versus the World Heavyweight Champion? Actually, in that scenario, it all works out how I would like it. I would be the only one able to walk out with both titles. But yeah, speculation is a great thing. Unpredictable this year. It is what makes this business exciting. Nobody knows where it's going." There is a precedence for an Intercontinental Champion and World Champion facing at WrestleMania, as Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior did exactly that at WrestleMania 6 in 1990. Whether Gunther versus Rollins happens this April or at a different time, the match would surely impress, and perhaps we'll be calling the Austrian a double champion one day. Would you like to see this match happen, possibly at WrestleMania? Or are you against the idea? Give your thoughts down below. Back to Dynamite, as Powerhouse Hobbs and Don Callis accompanied Kyle Fletcher to the ring for his match against Chris Jericho, who was fresh off the Jericho cruise. Jericho chased Don Callis away, but not permanently, because as soon as Fletcher and Jericho got back in the ring, Callis returned to the ringside area. This was booked to be the story of a young up-and-coming star taking on a man who is closer to the end of his career than the beginning, and the two shared impressive chemistry. Jericho is a competent performer, and Fletcher is one of AEW's brightest stars under 30, and even when Jericho was slowing down, Fletcher changed tack to make everything look good. Jericho caught him with two different versions of the Judas effect to get the pin, with one looking much better than the other, and hopefully this isn't the last time these two face off. Speaking of Jericho, it was when Edge went down with an injury in 2009 that Y2J Jericho replaced him with the Big Show, forming the popular and dominant Jericho tag team. Now neither man is with WWE, but during his recent cruise, Jericho and Paul Wight reunited Jericho, complete with their old ring attires. Not only did Jericho don trunks for the first time in years, but the pair also used the Jericho theme song from their WWE days, making the night even more memorable for guests on the cruise. This reunion marked only the second time in nearly 8 years that Jericho and Wight joined forces, with the previous instance being the Like a Dragon street fight on the November 15th Dynamite. Jericho teamed with TNA's Mike Bailey to face Kyle Fletcher, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Lance Archer in what was by all accounts an exciting final night at sea for the Chris Jericho cruise. Back on dry land, Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland picked each other's opponents for this week's Dynamite, and leading to Toa Liona stepping up for the leader of the Mogul Embassy. Liona had a considerable size and power advantage, and while this would typically mean Page had the edge on speed, the two were actually matched in that department. Another hard-hitting fight, but in a different way than Mox vs. Hardy, this was perhaps the biggest match of Liona's career since he came to AEW and ROH. Page was unable to hit the buckshot lariat, but he did manage to keep Liona down for the 3 count with a crucifix. The match was good, even though Prince Nana was missed at ringside, and the issues between Page and Strickland are clearly far from over. Tony Storm joined the commentary team to watch Deonna Purrazzo take on Taya Valkyrie, and Johnny TV was at ringside to support his wife. Purrazzo and Taya have a lot in common, including respectable reigns as knockout champion, but they have obvious differences, with Valkyrie focusing on flash and drama over substance. Purrazzo, in comparison, is called the Virtuosa because she prides herself on being one of the best technicians in the world, but despite their differences, both are immensely talented women. Both used stiff strikes and holds in this match before Purrazzo got the win and taunted Storm from the ring as she shook with anger at the commentary table. Samoa Joe sat with the commentary team for the main event as Hangman Page made Swerve Strickland wait until his entrance to find out who his opponent was. Page also revealed that this would be a hardcore match just before the bell, and Rob Van Dam kicked things off with a steel chair to the face of Swerve in a massive surprise. As expected, this match quickly turned into a series of weapon spots and moments designed to pop the crowd, who knew that headlocks and drop toe holds were out of the window with this stip. This didn't come close to the brutality of Swerve's other hardcore matches, but it had its own charm, and as expected, the fans loved seeing RVD and popped huge for all his signature moves. Brian Cage interfered, which brought out Hook to even the score for his one-time tag team partner, and after a handful of near falls for both men, Strickland got the win with a Swerve stomp. Dynamite also saw Matthew and Nicholas Jackson continue their corporate heel turn, which proved to be especially expensive for one unfortunate AEW staffer. When the Young Bucks arrived at the venue, a crew member handed certain papers to the duo and called them Matt and Nick, infuriating the executive vice presidents. In recent weeks, they've made it clear that they'll only be referred to by their God-given names, and this utterance of Matt and Nick earned the employee a $500 fine. With Cody Rhodes long gone and Kenny Omega out with health issues, the Bucks are the only active EVPs, and this power has clearly gone to the head of Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. More from the Vince McMahon scandal now, as the lawsuit against him has rocked the wrestling world, and after Slim Jim suspended sponsoring WWE events, McMahon quickly resigned. Unlike 2022, McMahon doesn't have the influence over WWE or TKO to strong-arm his way back into the company, and it seems that this is genuinely the end for the billionaire. On the 83 Weeks podcast, Eric Bischoff shared his take on the situation and suggested that WWE will be looking to distance themselves from McMahon, much like a certain name from the past. He said, "The name McMahon, I think, he's going to be right there with Chris Benoit in the minds of a lot of people as a name not to be mentioned the way things look at this point. I fought with Vince, I battled with him, I did everything I could to undermine him, but at the end of it all, I respected the guy that beat because that's what fighters do. If somebody's good enough to beat me in something, you've got to respect their abilities. And even for me, this is difficult. I can't imagine what it's like for McMahon's kids and the grandkids. It's just disgusting." Bischoff added that in Vince's office, you would see artifacts of his father and grandfather showcasing their many accomplishments, but added that this won't be the case anymore. The WCW magnate said that nobody in WWE wants to be reminded of the McMahon name anymore, and as far as TKO is concerned, starting now, Vince McMahon never existed. McMahon created an empire and changed wrestling in a way nobody else has, but his time is seemingly up, and with the lawsuit continuing, resigning may just be the start of things to come. Last night, Kazuchika Okada's contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling expired, and after he honors some commitments to compete this month, he will be a completely free agent. Okada's split with New Japan has been amicable, but all attention now turns to where's next for him, and it's believed by many that he could be heading to WWE, first as part of the NXT brand. Sources who spoke to Fightful from WWE have confirmed that there have been talks with Okada's representatives and added that Okada himself has been in talks with current WWE talent. Okada is said to be gauging his offers, though right now there's no details on proposed creative plans or specific offers made to the former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. AEW, on the other hand, has been confident about the possibility of signing Okada for some time and have made a substantial offer, with tentative plans for him to debut over a month from now. It's important to note that as of now, no contract has been signed by Okada, who's enlisted the services of Barry Bloom as his representative, adding another layer of intrigue to his free agency. Bloom has represented several wrestlers in contract negotiations, with Will Ospreay, Chris Jericho, and The Elite all utilizing Bloom when reaching impressive deals with AEW. Wrestling fans will undoubtedly be eager to see where the Rainmaker lands next and how his future unfolds, and where do you hope to see him next? Sound off in the comments section. On WWE TV, Solo Sikoa is the stoic enforcer of the bloodline who rarely speaks, but if you've been on his Twitter, you know that Sikoa isn't always so quiet. Recently, social media pulled up Solo Sikoa's tweets from 2013, which ranged from him being in school and expressing his hatred for math to asking if someone could pick him up from school. As fans poked fun at these old tweets, Sikoa went on a blocking spree, but ultimately got tired of blocking fans and ended up deleting his Twitter account for good. This isn't the first time Sikoa has taken steps to protect his social media, as last month he locked his Twitter account after an old video of him dancing and dabbing went viral. Sikoa is currently engaged in a feud with Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight as a representative of the bloodline, but whatever's next in this angle, don't expect to hear of it from Sikoa on Twitter. For the vast majority of his wrestling career, Adam Copeland was with WWE, who often made it a mission to be the only wrestling game in town. WCW, ECW, and countless other smaller promotions went out of business only to see WWE thrive, but now AEW is providing what Copeland feels is some much-needed competition. While speaking to Sports Illustrated, Copeland said it's good for everyone in the business if there's more than one place to ply your trade, and said a monopoly is never a good idea. Copeland also said that this goes for the consumer as well, and reflected on his own experience as a fan before he got into the ring. He said, "As a consumer, I want more choices. That doesn't mean I have to choose one over the other. You can choose them all. I remember growing up and dying to be able to get my hands on NWA tapes. It didn't air where I lived, where there was WWF. I found International Wrestling from Montreal. I found All-Star Wrestling from Vancouver. I found all these other shows and I loved that. I'd get little snippets of guys I'd only seen in magazines. Then the show Pro Wrestling Plus with Ed Whalen, who was the announcer for Stampede, started, and I finally got to see wrestlers from the NWA and Continental. I just thought, give it all to me. That's why AEW is great. It's so cool to see different wrestling. This is really special, and I'm having a blast being here." Adam Copeland knows he's in the last chapters of his wrestling career, but remains active with his Cope Open, and will keep making AEW competition to WWE, which is best for everyone. But what do you make of his comments about competition? Let us know down in our comments. Now, ahead of this week's Dynamite, Jeff Hardy took to his Instagram and uploaded a mysterious video where he talked about his match with Jon Moxley. Not only that, but Jeff also teased the return of Willow, as he was wearing the same attire as Willow, and said some of his signature cryptic dialogues for good measure. Hardy previously used his Willow character in Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and his promotion Omega, which he ran with Matt, and the persona made a one-off appearance in WWE. Willow is a character Jeff created in his youth, which is clearly of great importance to him, and perhaps we'll be seeing this darker side to the popular wrestler on AEW TV soon enough. We've got some sad news to report now, as Marty Jannetty is mourning the loss of his sister. Jannetty shared the news via a Facebook post, stating that he learned of his sister's passing from a call by his brother, who said that their sister died in his arms. Marty also spoke about his other sister, Diane, who he said is still hanging in tough, and encouraged her to stay strong at this time. As if that weren't heartbreaking enough, Jannetty also revealed he went to a doctor this week who suggested amputating one of his legs as a response to his various health issues. This is obviously an awful time for Jannetty, who was once part of the popular Rockers tag team with Shawn Michaels, and we'd like to send Marty our absolute best at this time. Since returning to WWE, Cody Rhodes has seen countless pieces of merchandise released, and the American Nightmare's popularity was proven once more at the Royal Rumble. Fightful Select reports that the Rumble was a big merchandise weekend for Rhodes, who was the top-selling superstar at the WWE Superstore in Tropicana Field. Rhodes was also a hit online, as his 2024 Men's Royal Rumble winner shirt was also the top seller on WWEshop.com. Rhodes has also yet to announce his WrestleMania 40 opponent, but that decision is coming, and no matter who it is, expect fans to share their support and appreciation for the American Nightmare. And we're ending as we started, with CM Punk, who will be out of action for a considerable amount of time, so fans won't be hearing Living Color's Cult of Personality on WWE programming. Punk is good friends with the band, and on Instagram, Living Colour shared a photo with Punk at a concert, adding that they are sending love and healing vibes to our homie CM Punk. Punk has used Cult of Personality since 2011, and the song is a hit with fans, but for the time being, don't expect the track on WWE shows, or at least not for introducing the best in the world.